2 minutes. Lynn Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
I'm on!
Oh, she is, boy.
No, we'll see about that. Anyway, you be the judge. I'm on the air, as is... well, we're not on the air.
We're in the cloud.
We're in the cloud.
Think of us as little angels. Or big angels, actually.
As the case may be.
As the case may be.
Tom Sokolowski joins me. Raconteur. Public scold.
Oh, public scold, yes.
And former director.
Yes.
I did it. I got it right, finally. Director of the Andy Warhol Museum. What's the proper title? Andy Warhol Museum?
The Andy Warhol Museum.
Oh, of course, like the Ohio State.
Oh.
That is so stupid. You don't watch football, so you don't know that, like, players now say...
So it's called the Ohio State University as opposed to Ohio State University?
Apparently, and, any time a football player that used to play at Ohio State is introduced before a NFL game or something, and they have to give my name's blah, and then they give their school, they always say, the Ohio State.
Weird. Some of those things come out, just like I think I had said to you once. There's some commercial on the radio where they always say, on Pittsburgh's historic South Side.
Oh, no. You hear that here.
Yeah, that's
Don't
right.
you?
Well, maybe, you mean yours, your channel? What does that mean?
No, we've laughed about that.
Historical.
What do you mean, historic? Oh, I know what it is.
What?
It's the public radio station.
Yes, it is. That's right.
That's what it is. And they always say, coming from Pittsburgh's historic South Side. I say,
crazy.
So? It's not the historic North Side?
Right,
it's not the historic
it's funny you bring that up. I for years, I was never a radio listener. And now pretty much I only listen, up until recently I only listened to my car, and usually it was to music, either QED or discs or what have you. And then now, because I've had a little bit more time, I've now been listening to, public NPR. And it's so interesting. I was talking to someone last night about this, how then during the day you say, I learned yesterday on NPR, like why cows do whatever.
Yeah.
And there's just so much informative stuff on that. It's like reading the newspaper 10 times over. While having some, raconteurs like Diane Reed.
Oh, no, I cannot listen to that. I cannot listen to her. I'm sorry.
Well,
Diane,
I thought she was like 195 years old.
She's not that old, but
because
she's
she had
old.
a vocal
She had
problem.
a problem, and I cannot listen to it. And they've got 2 hours of her on. As a matter of fact, when I get off this show, and if I end up in my car, they used to have a great show on, and then they put her...
Yeah, right. But, someone who I'd always heard good things about and I'd never listened to is this guy, Ira Glass.
Oh, he's wonderful.
Oh, he's marvelous, yeah.
That's great
really,
stuff.
really wonderful.
That's really, really, really good stuff. But let me tell you, there's so much great stuff out there available for public radio stations. And for some reason, despite the fact that this city has 3 of them, we do, they don't carry a ton of great stuff. And the reason I know this is because in Wisconsin public radio is considered one of the great.
Yeah, right.
You know that?
Yes,
well,
I
it
do.
is. And unbelievable. Every time, let's say, I, fly to get home, I can't get to Green Bay anymore, so I fly to Milwaukee or to Chicago and then rent a car and drive up. Turn to Wisconsin Public Radio. You talk about learning things you never would have learned. It comes from, left field, right field, center field, out there. Stuff you don't think you would find interesting that you're just riveted.
How many stations do they have? Is it just one monolithic one for the state, or are there?
No, there's little satellite ones, but Green Bay itself has 2. One that does all the classical music and stuff like that, and then the other that just does this constant talk, and some of it is so odd.
Well, I have to say, the one thing I remember I used to listen to in
smart.
Chicago,
What it is, it's all
Studs
smart.
Terkel,
Yeah.
who would just know how to pick the most interesting people, and it didn't have to be Yehudi Menuhin.
He knew how to talk to people.
He don't talk to people, but then it would be like some old farmer who would tell the story of coming from Germany.
Right. Oh, he was amazing.
1890.
He was an incredible
and the stories, it was just something that would be heartbreaking.
Yeah. Great radio, that kind of thing. But it's very unimaginative what they choose here. And any station that thinks anyone wants to listen to 2 hours of Diana Reed.
There's this other silly
Like a
show
creaky
on
door.
Sunday morning, or Saturday and Sunday mornings, of these 2 brothers.
Please.
Who talk about cars.
Yeah,
Have you ever heard that?
Have I ever heard that? Well, listen, Tom,
yes.
did you not listen to... You didn't listen to NPR?
No, I didn't. No.
Everyone knows those 2.
Well, I
They're
didn't
huge.
know them.
They're
I know,
hugely
but,
for everybody.
and they love one another. Like,
And everybody...
I didn't know you
No,
would say
don't
that.
say bad things. Everybody loves them.
No, they're charming. I don't care about cars at all. But
The Magliazzi brothers.
Oh, I didn't know
Frickin'
their
frack.
last name. Oh, they're very freaking frack, yeah.
They're... everybody loves them. Jess loves them. Now, this shows how good they are. Do I know anything about carburetors?
Or do you care?
Right, or antifreeze, or I
That's
don't
what
know.
Jiffy
for
Lube
nothing.
is for, my
right.
dear.
I don't know a dang thing. So why would anyone like me look forward to listening to a 1-hour show about car repair?
Right.
That's how good they are. Anyway, you're hearing reruns. They've stopped.
Oh, really?
I believe
Oh,
they've
that's
stopped
interesting.
doing. Their shows are so desired
Wow.
that even when they decided to hang it up, NPR said, "Well, we're just going to keep." We're going to keep playing these because people.
Because if you have an
just-
87 Chevy, it always is going to have a bad carburetor or whatever.
Oh, I think they're just wonderful.
No, but you know what it is? I think it's interesting because I do listen to it sometimes now on Sundays. And it's because they come across as homespun experts. So they do know what they're talking about. Well, maybe it's because so-and-so's not on tight enough. And it's not stupid woman. You should know better.
Oh, no,
It's just
they're
folksy.
funny. They're
Yeah, well,
funny.
they are funny, but
They're
they're folksy and they
smart
wanna help.
as hell.
Yeah, no.
They're smart as hell. Smart, funny, folksy.
Yeah.
How can you beat it? And they
Because-
I don't know. They even have they had a newspaper column.
Oh,
they
really? Wow.
There was they show up as cartoon figures in places.
Well, it's sort of like
They're cute.
Arma Bombeck. You'd never call her Julia Child, but she had a sense of
she
how
was
you
wonderful.
clean your house or how you make brownies. It was very funny. Another person I loved in Chicago for years, there was a woman on radio. She also wrote, but she was on radio, NPR, WFMT, named Claudia Cassidy. And she was this very grand woman. And many people felt that she killed theater and opera in Chicago for many years because she was so imperious. Oh, yes, Lynn Cullen sang last night. Nicely. But one couldn't forget hearing Maria Callas in 51 in Paris.
Oh, wait.
When the heckles on...
Speaking of critics.
She was great. I loved her.
Speaking of critics, there's such a hoot and holler about a restaurant review.
Oh, yes.
Have you
I read
seen
it yesterday.
This? Now, here again, I don't watch these reality shows and any of the cooking shows. But one of them is what? Diners, Dives? What is it?
Drivers, Diners, and Dives. And Guy Fieri.
Guy Fieri. So Guy Fieri is a character, obviously,
Yes.
and he's got a lot of restaurants. Well, he just opened one in Times Square. And the New York Times restaurant critic, who I believe is a new restaurant critic. For
Relatively. I can't remember his name.
Everybody is saying it is the most scathing review. It is hysterical. It does not have one declarative sentence in it.
Right.
It is just this huge, long tirade of questions to
Guy Fieri. Because some of the writing of it is great. And then something that
New York Times
Fieri.
It's
excoriating. And now, number one, all the restaurants on Times Square.
Sure. I mean,
on Times Square are usually sort of tacky and run down. It's where like tourists go and whatever. But it's just horrible. And then they give it, because usually they'll just say, like, if it's a new restaurant, no stars. This says poor. And a few people commented that they didn't know that was the category. Oh, it just goes out. Well, I remember when the food stuff first started, there was this show which picked these food stars. And he was just this guy, and sort of folksy, but he's now turned. I mean, his hair is normally dark.
Bleach blonde,
but not. We see all the roots.
Well, he's a...
Yeah, and
all these people are entertainers, whether they're doing cars, whether they're doing restaurants, or whether they're writing restaurant reviews. Because all of this is entertainment. And people don't... A lot of times people just don't remember
the show,
that.
he goes... It's been on for now 3, 4, 5 years. His garb is always like... over-the-hill surfer garb, surfer shorts and then those cut-off shirts and flip-flops. And he drives this 1950s car and goes to unexpected. He's been to, what's that restaurant? Susie O's, Kathy O's. Kelly O's, yes. It's a breakfast place in the South Hills, and now there's one in the Strip District. And he loved, I forgot what he loved, what they have there. And it's always sort of like, man, that's the greatest thing I've ever tasted.
Okay. And, PJ says the Click and Clack, the Tappet brothers, both have degrees from MIT. Oh, you actually called and got on, but it didn't make it on the air. It was just before they retired, and they both sounded and acted worn out. Can you imagine? The other thing about them is because they seem to be having so much fun, delighting in what each other said in their own bon mots, and so they had an infectious...
Yes, right.
So when you're listening to them, even if they start laughing, you start laughing.
Right. You can see them in bar loungers with a can of beer.
And Margaret agrees, the Carr brothers, everybody loves them.
Well, see, I never seen them. This was my
Boy, are you late to that show.
Yeah, really.
I mean, you're a relatively early adopter of Honey Boo Boo, but they've been around for 100 years.
Well, I said, I never listened to radio, except for now.
Well, there is a definite... Are you reading the review? Jess is reading the review.
It really is. Well, and also,
send it to me. Don't send over...
Anthony Bourdon has commented, well, he hates, what's his name, Guy Fieri. Although he's in the same modality. He's not so down home, but he overdoes it. And then who else? What's that other French one? Oh, I can't remember who cooks in America. Just like, whoa.
Well, for those of you who miss this, I don't know if I can do this whole thing. It's a very long review, but this is the nastiest review in the history of reviews. It has to be.
But what's interesting about
it, it's smart. It's so well written.
But it's not nasty and like, oh, this place is filthy. Okay. It just keeps saying like, oh, well, and they talk about the delicious fries. Wow.
Okay, hang on. I'm going to read a little bit of it. Guy Fieri, have you eaten at your new restaurant in Times Square? Have you pulled up one of the 500 seats at Guy's American Kitchen and Bar and ordered a meal? Did you eat the food? Did it live up to your expectations? Did panic grip your soul as you stared into the whirling hypno wheel of the menu, where adjectives and nouns spin in a crazy vortex? Get this thing off of there. Anyway, wait, I want to move on. Were you... so ugly. It's so nasty. Did you notice that the menu was an excuse me.
These ads keep popping up on the screen.
Were Were you struck by how very far from awesome the awesome pretzel chicken tenders are?
Just the name of it sounds horrible.
If you hadn't come up with the recipe yourself, would you ever guess that the shiny tissue of breading that exudes grease onto the plate contains either pretzels or smoked almonds? Did you discern any buttermilk or brine in the white meat, or did you think it tasted like chewy air? Why is one of the few things on your menu that can be eaten without fear or regret a lunch-only sandwich of chopped soy-glazed pork with coleslaw and cucumbers called a roasted pork banh mi, when it resembles that item about as much as you resemble Emily Dickinson? When you have a second, Mr. Fieri, would you see what happened to the black bean and roasted squash soup we ordered? Hey, did you try that blue drink, the one that glows like nuclear waste? The watermelon margarita? Any idea why it tastes like some combination of radiator fluid and formaldehyde? Okay, I'll skip again and dip in later. Oh, God. How, for example, did Rhode Island's supremely unhealthy and awesomely good fried calamari, dressed with garlic butter and pickled hot peppers, end up in your restaurant as a plate of pale, unsalted squid rings next to a dish of sweet mayonnaise with a distant rumor of spice? How did Louisiana's black and Cajun spice treatment turn into a ghostly nub of unblackened, unspiced white meat in your Cajun chicken Alfredo? How did nachos, one of the hardest dishes in the American canon to mess up, turn out so deeply unlovable? Why augment tortilla chips with fried lasagna noodles that taste like nothing except oil? Why not bury those chips under a properly hot and filling layer of melted cheese and jalapenos instead of dribbling them with thin needles of pepperoni and cold gray clots of ground turkey? Well, here, it's unbelievable. Is this nasty? When you hung that sign by the entrance that says, "Welcome to Flavor Town," were you just messing with our heads?
Does this make it sound as if everything at Guy's American Kitchen and Bar is inedible? I didn't say that, did I? End of review.
No. Does he say something nice about something?
Nothing. But, I mean, really, and because rarely is the times...
Why undermine a big fist of slow-roasted pork shank, which might fly in many downtown restaurants if the General Tso's sauce were a notch less sweet, with randomly shaped scraps of carrot that combine a tough, nearly raw crunch with the deadened, overcooked taste of school cafeteria vegetables? Is that how you roll in Flavor Town?
You know what that reminds me of? Do you remember New York Magazine for many years had John Simon, the theater critic?
Oh, yes.
Oh, and he would talk about like an actress's big nose and Botox lips before that became... And he would get censored all the time. But this is of that...
Okay, well, I'm going to just do the end here, okay? What accounts for the vast difference between the donkey sauce recipe you've published and the donkey sauce in your restaurant? Why has the hearty, rustic appeal of roasted garlic mayonnaise been replaced by something that tastes like Miracle Whip with minced raw garlic? And when we hear the words donkey sauce, which part of the donkey are we supposed to think about? Is the entire restaurant a very expensive piece of conceptual art? Is this shapeless, structureless, baked Alaska that droops and slumps and collapses while you eat it or don't eat it supposed to be a representation in sugar and eggs of the experience of going insane? Why did the toasted marshmallows taste like fish? Did you finish that blue drink? Oh, and we never got our Vegas fries. Would you mind telling the kitchen that we don't need them? Thanks. Wow! And I didn't even do half of it.
Yeah.
That guy must have had so much fun writing that.
Oh, yeah. Well, you could tell once he got into that sort of...
It's creating such a stir.
Because, one of the other things is on his show, and each one is like the other one. He loves everything. That's the greatest burger I ever had. That's the greatest mush with giblets I've ever had. Give me another, And so this business of constantly rapping it bad, he's going to have to respond in some form.
Oh, this is funny.
Oh, but it really is.
I love it. Excuse us if you had wanted more serious fare today, and feel free to write a scathing critique of this program.
But may I say, I think it's very interesting that, and I felt this very strongly. I mean, I really am interested. I'm a foodie. I like to cook. I like to eat. I like to go out. But when those shows first started, Julia Child first and foremost, or what was that English guy who used to write for the Times?
Claiborne.
Claiborne. And no doubt he wasn't English, he was Southern. But anyway, there was some English guy too. Anyway, but they really taught you technique.
Yes.
And whatever.
These guys don't do that.
They're all entertainment. They're all like Southern belles.
Well, but see, this is...
But that's what people want. They don't want to learn about
food is
cooking.
the hook that you hang this sort of...
right, exactly.
This personality-driven show.
And I think it's just about now that people are starting to say, no, we're interested in this. But that dives, and whatever it is, it is on
diners.
two nights a week at least for the whole evening.
Well,
half hour is like,
I don't.
So I think it's good to finally for the people of the profession to say, no, this is bullshit. And all his food is heart attack food.
Well, yeah, often these shows that is what it is. That's what it's about. Okay.
Anthony Bourdain, just like the end to this, Anthony Bourdain took off after Paula Deen because he said she was, her food was disgusting.
She was diabetic.
Well, and now she's lost weight, but... then her son now has a show called Not My Mama's Recipes, and it's all like, well, Mama would put in 3 sticks of butter, and I'll put in 1/2 stick of margarine. And she'll come on the show with her hair, oh, Bobby boy, where's all that oil that I put in? And she's another character,
That's what drives it. These are personality shows. Masquerading as cooking shows or restaurant shows or car shows or whatever. That's what it's about. And talk radio is also a personality-driven show that uses news as its or politics as its sort of venue. But that's why.
But you can have a character. We were talking about that a few other shows ago about there are no more characters in public parlance. But you can be a character and still be very credible. It's not that a character has to be Honey Boo Boo or some crazy person.
Indeed.
It just means someone who you'd like to sit down next. I always remember one time when I first came to Pittsburgh, Christopher Hitchens came to town because he was spending
he actually taught here at Pitt. Yeah. He was around.
And I was invited to this dinner party, and he came late. And then sort of no one wanted to sit next to him, and he made some point of like, is everyone afraid of me? And, he would get quite a bit in his cups and smoking. So I sat down, and he was charming and thoughtful.
Absolutely.
And,
wonderful. I miss him.
His writing was so wonderful. And then he would take on these real heavy-duty positions.
Yeah.
And then he would say when he was wrong, he was wrong. And
he didn't always. He never really recapitulated.
Well, he did sort of about
Iraq.
Well,
I don't know. But I adored him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I actually ended up having to recover for an entire day after a party where
smoking the booze,
where I was trying to keep up with him.
Yeah.
I was,
and even when he was half crocked,
boy, he was brilliant. He did.
You really had to listen.
Writing drunk, he did everything drunk, and never stopped smoking, and it killed him.
Yeah, sadly.
Damn. Okay, tell you what. We'll take a short break and return. And then I do want to return to political stuff.
Yes, of course.
But I want to talk about this is not surprising, I guess, the inability of so many Republicans to come to terms.
Yes, with the election.
With the
results of the election.
And to acknowledge that the voters
have spoken.
Said anything. They don't. I guess it never gets into their heads when they don't want to hear it. We got to talk about this.
Yes,
This is getting absurd. Okay, in a minute.
More is on the way with Lynn Cullen Live.
Your furnace and air conditioning run nonstop? Are your heating and cooling bills too high? Call Pittsburgh Foam Insulation. Their certified installers are ready to insulate your home using the best wall insulation product available. And the owner has over 20 years experience installing insulation in homes. Pittsburgh Foam Insulation is locally owned and is not a franchise. Unlike the other guys, there are no franchise fees that will be passed on to you, which means Pittsburgh Foam Insulation is able to offer their customers a lower, more affordable price than their competitor. Call 412-856-6100 for a free, no obligation estimate, or on the web at pittsburghfoaminsulation.com.
Pittsburgh City Paper's special holiday pullout is available now. Pick up one today for listings and information on holiday festivities throughout the burg, plus the Sessions, Lincoln, and News of the Weird. Pittsburgh City Paper available at over 1,700 locations throughout western Pennsylvania and on the web at pghcitypaper.com and on your smartphone at citypapermobile.com.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
Okay, so why don't you talk about the Republicans' inability to deal with the fact that they lost, and that most of the people in the country that came to vote wanted Barack Obama to retain the presidency. So, first of all, you have the secessionist thing going on. That's now every state except I think Vermont has it.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Mississippi, but...
Somebody check how many people have signed the Pennsylvania petition.
Oh, really? Oh, that's right. There was something on NPR I thought I said earlier.
But
they thought the guy who was speaking thought the only state who could do, not could vis-a-vis constitutionally, but who
Texas.
could, because it's so big, they could afford to
You know what? My sense is, I've said this before, let them go. Help them pack their bags. Goodbye. Can you imagine if you got rid of all of them?
Oh, they're in the end,
that
so
you
we
could
probably
end up with this progressive, wonderful country.
Neutral charges and just have it float off the bottom into the Gulf of Mexico.
So,
the island of Texas.
There's 700,000 people
throughout the country, but you haven't seen. If you Google how many Pennsylvania, you did. It doesn't say. Okay,
just so
silly. What I think you can do is go to whitehouse.gov / something and petitions or something, and see if you can sign the Pennsylvania petition and see how many are out there. At any rate. So I'm going to start with the totally ridiculous. You heard about the guy who...
wanted to shoot Obama?
No. This is a guy in Key West. He was found dead a day and a half after the election. Dead next to 2 empty prescription bottles and his will, on which he had scrawled, "Fuck Obama."
Wow. Well, there was this guy that showed a picture of him on the internet who wanted to shoot the president.
Oh, well, that's fine. Handy too. Listen,
but I mean, it's so outrageous.
Okay, so now we're going to go from that crazy guy who killed himself to Republicans who hold office and their reactions. Okay, here is the state chairman of the GOP in Maine. His name is Charlie Webster. In an interview with the NBC affiliate there, he said that he was astounded by dozens and dozens of black people who came in and voted on Election Day.
Couldn't keep them in the fields, could we? Or drive to the lobster
And then he goes
box.
on to say, listen to this. Everybody has a right to vote, but nobody in town knows anyone who's black. How did this happen? And we're going to find out. I'm not politically correct, and maybe I shouldn't have said these voters were black. But anyone who suggests I have a bias toward any race or group, frankly, that's sleazy. Okay. Now, he's essentially saying the same thing that the losing vice presidential nominee, Mr. Ryan, Congressman Ryan, said.
Oh, I didn't hear this.
Because, he said we lost because the urban vote.
Well, he's probably right.
No, well, he's not really, because the urban vote, which is code for black,
Oh, see, I wouldn't have read it.
Oh, no, it is.
Okay.
Urban, I'll tell you, in the radio business.
Well, obviously there are more
in the radio business, urban as a genre is hip hop.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
urban means black people.
Right.
So
Well,
how does that
explain?
How does that explain how Obama wins almost incredibly rural states, which he did?
He did, right.
Like Iowa. You know, I mean, this is bull. New Hampshire. Those aren't urban.
Right. But on the
states.
other side of it, thank you for clarifying that for me. I mean, I understand that. But I also think on a certain other level, he was right in that, not about urban meaning black, but urban meaning people who think for themselves, people who think beyond their neighborhoods, people who perhaps have a more national or global view of politics, economics, social mores, and what have you. And it is true. I mean, Pittsburgh and Philadelphia and some of Bucks County carried the state. Even though if you look at it, we're two little pimples on each side of a red stomach. But he is right there. And what is that? And what's to me the most nefarious about this, and I'm not the first to say this, I mean, it's the same goddamn issue that was the issue of the Civil War.
That's right. No, and I'll say
people who want, people who want like the land, and the land is sacred, and if you need slaves to make that land profitable, then so be it.
The fact is the people who lost the Civil War have never conceded.
Yeah,
well, they never conceded, really. And so these are the same people. If they haven't essentially accepted they lost the Civil War,
right.
How are we supposed to believe that they would accept they lost this election in 2012?
I think I said this once on this program. Someone said to me in Richmond, Virginia, when I lived in that part of the world, the last great unpleasantness was the Civil War, the last great unpleasantness.
Okay.
But what's also interesting is the fact that, again, NPR, quoting again, there's a show that's going to open in Washington, I think this weekend, and then it's going to be later in the year, or no, late next year at the Metropolitan. And it's a show about American landscape during the Civil War. And this woman who's a curator, an art historian at the National Museum of American History in D.C., talks about that no one's ever looked at these landscapes that were painted during the 4 years of the Civil War. And of course, everyone, when you look at the parlance around the Civil War, said, it's going to be a few months. Well, it was 4 years of the most grotesque things. And she talks, and they ostensibly show in this exhibition, this was Diane Rehm, by the way, these pictures of beautiful America, but both dark skies or a woman standing in a field with clouds just sort of like whooshing by her hair, and then they juxtapose this scene which was Appomattox in pre-war, and then a photograph which showed like every square inch covered with dead bodies.
Yeah.
I mean, just like in the rot and whatever. And that, even in these pictures that were supposed to show the wonders of the American land, and land meant everything, not owning a business, but owning land, that's still very much part of many of those states, western and southern states, that there was crap about, and that this war, which was thought to be, gentlemen in the South and upstarts in the North, it became, until the First World War, one of the most viciously fought and killing of animals and first use of sort of germ warfare stuff kind of things. And this was not the War of Gentlemen at all. It was like savagery and it rent the country, and that wound, that split, has never really healed. Never really healed.
No, I would agree. Okay, so let's head down to the Confederacy.
Yes.
And to Georgia, and to the state, the state senators of Georgia, the Republican state senators, which is probably most of the state Senate in Georgia. And they held a meeting to discuss a supposed UN conspiracy to deny private property rights, which Obama will help accomplish through a mind control technique known as Delphi. Now, you laugh. This is, if you lived in Atlanta, Georgia, and a lot of very sophisticated people do. Atlanta, Georgia. This is your state Senate.
What was that great movie, The Manchurian Candidate?
Yeah,
Remember that?
Listen to this. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution reported on the meeting. And in it was called by the Republican Senate Majority Leader. It took place at the state capitol. And it began with a 90-minute screening of the documentary Agenda, Grinding America Down. And also, they were shown a video from Dick Morris, who warns of Obama's war on the suburbs. And get this, they actually buy this, that Obama plans to relocate suburbanites to urban areas. What? How insane do you have to be to think that these are elected, this is the state senate of Georgia, and they think that the president is going to round up suburbanites and put them in the urban areas with all those black people?
Well, I declare.
But you can't now say. So you start with the fringe. You start with the crazies that you can just say, oh, he's crazy, the guy who killed himself. Okay, then you do the state Republican guy in Maine or whatever.
They're taking away our lawn jockeys.
Then you go to this. Unbelievable. Okay, the video told them that Agenda 21 is a conspiracy to transform America from the land of the free to the land of the collective. And this is happening. It says that Obama and liberal groups will try to accomplish this through a form of mind control known as the Delphi technique. It was developed, this technique does exist. Okay. It was developed by the Rand Corporation during the Cold War as a mind control technique. It is also known as consensus process. But basically, the goal of the Delphi technique is to lead a targeted group of people to a predetermined outcome while keeping the illusion of being open to public input.
Sort of sounds like the Pied Piper of Hamelin, doesn't it?
Okay, so understand this, that a headline, what kind of a country are we? This is a headline. Georgia GOP holds meeting over Obama mind control conspiracy.
You know, on this, I just...
And the subhead, in connection with an alleged UN plot to forcibly move everyone to the cities.
Really?
Okay, Republicans, I got news for you. This is your party. This is your party. You wonder why you lost? Because people perceive your party as made up of insane people. And there's all this proof. And then you elect them.
You know, it's interesting. I mentioned before this movie, and if people haven't seen it, see the original Manchurian Candidate with Angela Lansbury.
Oh, it's just wonderful.
But it's this notion, basically, they get these, the Koreans, North Koreans, get this bunch of American GIs with Frank Sinatra, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
In the movie.
They were POWs during Korea.
And they get mind-washed to come back, and then they're let to come back in this country. And that through something like the Delphi technique, they're going to execute the candidate for president, so the vice president person, who is this covert communist, will take over, and who is Angela Lansbury's son, and she's vicious and fabulous in this. But it's that sort of, it's a great movie and it was a great book, but I mean, it is so beyond the call of possibility.
Well, you know, I guess Bobby Jindal and somebody else came out yesterday, and they're part of the Republicans that have not totally lost their minds, and they are starting to scream now, saying, hey, you guys, stop it. Just stop it. And then you got Mitt Romney coming out yesterday, and he said that he lost because, let me get because of they were giving free stuff away. Okay, listen to this. Free contraceptives were very big with those young college-aged women. And so he thinks young people voted for Obama to get free birth control. So the young people who voted for Obama are sluts.
Yes, right? Sluts. Urban.
The Hispanics want free stuff. He says that he gave the Hispanics, this opportunity to get, to get amnesty of a sort. Likewise, with Hispanic voters, this is Romney, free health care That's a big plus. But in addition, with regards to Hispanics, with regards to the voters, the amnesty for illegals, the so-called DREAM Act kids, that was a huge plus. Okay, what? Okay, he doesn't get it. They just keep offending everybody in the country. Caller, go ahead. They just keep offending everybody, and then they wonder why they lose. Hello.
Right.
Caller.
Hey, Lynn. How are you?
Fine.
Lynn and guest.
Tom.
Beautiful day today. In fact, it's been a beautiful day every day since about last Tuesday night for some explained reason. Every day is better than the last. But, yeah, what a classless jerk to the end. Mitt Romney. Amply demonstrating that neither money nor pedigree mean class.
Nor deep religious
Well, see, but here's what's but here's what fascinates me about this. He actually is saying that because he's saying Obama catered to these groups.
Well,
this is what politicians do. He
caters.
He caters to the rich. Well, it just turns out that there are not enough people he catered to, but there are plenty of the people Obama caters to, and those people are called not urban and blacks and Hispanics and young women. They're called American citizens and American voters. That's how offensive they are.
Yesterday in his speech, I was listening to the president said, he was talking about your taxes, and he said, people like me, people who make over $250,000 a year. So acknowledging he's a wealthy person.
Well, he's always done that.
No,
he says,
I should pay more.
Right.
And
so this is okay. So they haven't gotten it. You can tell from what they're saying. Now there are people in the Congress stepping up and saying, that there's no mandate. Americans didn't vote for tax increases. What the hell do they think that election was?
Exactly.
They're arguing that because the Republicans retained a majority in the House, that Americans voted. The Republicans back in the House of Representatives. I'm like, well, you lost seats. Mm-hmm. You lost, representation in the House.
You lost seats, and you had even gerrymandered
Democrats won victories in the Senate.
That's right.
The
That's
president
right.
was reelected.
Right.
But they don't accept it. I mean,
they also lost.
From what I've gathered in the past week, the reason that Romney, a clueless, classless jerk, as always, to the bitter end, always has been, always will be, bully in high school, classless jerk now. Douchebag businessman who laid people off while pocketing millions. He kept the president waiting for a concession for an hour and 45 minutes on election night because he just didn't accept that he lost. He wouldn't accept that he lost.
Well, that's because Karl Rove didn't accept that they lost, and you don't do anything till Karl Rove throws in the towel. But it's troubling because you can't have a democracy. The thing about this country that I've always marveled at is that we can have elections and where you change parties. And
look at Alan West in Florida.
Yeah, and people accept it and they move on. When Republicans have gotten to the point where they simply do not accept the will of the people, then we got trouble.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm halfway convinced that Alan West will actually have to be escorted out of his office. It's beyond Alan West in Florida. I don't know if you've been following that story. The crazy, disgraced ex-military officer who was forced out of the military because he tortured a prisoner, who turned out to be innocent, by the way. They had no connection to terrorists. Alan West is simply refusing to accept that he lost the election, and it's beyond the realm of a recount. He lost by a margin where there's no recount. Mm-hmm. So he's going through these, legal motions and slandering the courts and slandering his opponent and claiming voter fraud. I'm almost convinced they're going to have to actually escort him out.
Well, maybe
the office, under armed guard.
Maybe.
Well, it's going to be very interesting.
Look at Norm Coleman, Frank, back in the 2008 2006, right? Where, they dragged on for months.
Yeah.
Coleman wouldn't give up.
Okay.
Right. Well, it's going to be interesting to see, of all of these, what are going to be the repercussions against Christie. Because that was a big kick up for the president, I believe, on one level when he supported him just at the time of
Christie will be
Sandy.
persona non grata with these Republicans. I mean,
but I mean, for a moment, with the crazy
they
ones.
don't forgive. They don't forget.
Wait, but some of them. But what about if you say Bobby Jindal is even sort of? I just wonder. And I mean,
we'll see.
Who's going to be?
There's going to be a real struggle. Yeah. There's going to be a real struggle. Anyway, we got to get a break in here, so be back in just a moment.
Stick around for more with Lynn Cullen Live after this.
Go to bergbargains.com for great deals from the 2012 Best of Pittsburgh winners. This week only, get discounts up to 70% on admission to all Carnegie museums for the holidays. bergbargains.com, Pittsburgh's exclusive e-commerce mall. bergbargains.com.
Winter has arrived and it's cold outside, so get to Little's for all your UGG needs. Little's has Uggs for men, women, and children to stay warm with shearling-lined boots, shoes, and slippers. And don't forget to get your hats, gloves, scarves, and more. All available at Little's Shoes. Bring the entire family to view one of the largest in-store UGG shops in the U.S. Little's Shoes, Pittsburgh's largest family shoe store, 5850 Forbes Avenue in Squirrel Hill.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we've got a pep talk that can motivate you.
Sometimes things don't always turn out the way you want them to.
You can improve your future. Now get your game face on and take the first step towards a better life. Hurry up. Don't make me repeat myself.
Whatever level of motivation you need, we've got a pep talk for you. Call 1-877-38-YOUR-GED or visit yourged.org for your pep talk and for free classes in your area. GED is a registered trademark of the American Council on Education. Brought to you by Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Now, it's back to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com.
Okay, I came upon this yesterday. I don't know who this guy is. Why isn't it even... Okay, here again. Here is what a lot of Republicans, they believe this. There's whole swaths of that red part of the country. What's wrong?
No, nothing. Oh, no, they went away.
Okay, that believe this. He says, no American citizen is the winner of this election. And then he goes in. There will be future assaults on our liberties and the Constitution, even as Obama runs to the UN to force an anti-Second Amendment weapons treaty on free Americans. In Obama's anti-constitutional world, foreign treaties can and will be used to abrogate our rights. I bring up the fact that Obama will continue to support the scientific fraud that is climate change, even in the face of all the proof that it is not happening. He will allow the UN to tax Americans, supposedly to combat non-existent climate change, but really to redistribute American money to foreign dictators whose policies in their countries are people believe. Speaking of tyrants, I mentioned that Obama will continue to funnel billions of our money to the Muslim Brotherhood to support their attempt to bring a Muslim caliphate and Sharia law to America. I point out that Obama will gut the military and give up our ability to protect ourselves on the world stage with our mortal enemy, Vladimir Putin. This thing goes on, and it's not just one nut. It's a whole bunch of them. Caller, go ahead. Caller?
Hey, guys. Sorry.
Hi.
It's PJ from Greensburg.
Hi, PJ.
Hey, so I looked up Delphi, the Delphi method, and I'm actually on Rand's website. And they did develop it in the 1950s.
Yeah, no, I know it exists.
But it has nothing to do with controlling a population. All it is a way to study group response.
Uh-huh.
So in other words, you ask a bunch of experts individually what they think, and then you draw a conclusion from that. So it's not even in what they're saying it is.
But PJ, you are making. You should have learned by now that going to what you did when you heard this, you went to find facts.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Right? And now you're calling to inform us of facts. And they don't agree with those facts. They think you are one of the people who've already been brainwashed.
I got my gift for voting for Obama, which, if you look at that, the vast majority of Romney voters were over 55 and white.
Yes.
And that is where the predominance of government funds are spent on individuals.
Those are most of the takers.
Those are the takers.
They paid in.
And the other funny thing about it is if you look at what that Agenda 21 or whatever is talking about, they're having done to them, and the people who voted for Romney are having done to them exactly what they're accusing Obama of doing to the United States. They're being led to fight for an idea or fight under the pretense of an idea to achieve a goal that they're clueless about.
It's interesting. They think they're going to be brainwashed, or we're all going to be brainwashed when they already have been brainwashed.
Exactly. It's unbelievable.
And so how do you deal with them?
You let them die out is what you do.
But I don't know. I think they're spawning.
We can't.
Younger people. I mean, so many of these Tea Party people.
There's
are
a lot of young
people
who believe this, who buy it, who've grown up with it. That's the only world they know.
The South shall rise again.
Well, but here's the thing: is I think, and I hope, and I do think that those young people that are associated with the Tea Party and the other young people in the United States, and a lot of Americans have seen through the smoke and mirrors at this point.
Obviously.
And they're seeing what the agenda is, and they're saying, it's you guys.
Right.
You've been telling us all along that it's the Democrats,
right.
and it's in fact you.
It's you.
And you know where you're going to see it with the Rice maybe nomination, maybe not nomination, John McCain and Graham coming out and sputtering and spitting and being venomous, and people are going to look at them and say, "You're doing it again."
I sure as hope. I hope you are right, because it is unbelievable how Obama wins. You had these two, McCain and Graham coming out and acting as if Susan Rice is somehow again the Antichrist, and it's insane. She didn't do anything. She reported what the intelligence community was telling her at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how could Susan Rice be the Antichrist when it's Obama anyway?
Well, they're both, they vote.
It's his wife, his real wife. Find the papers.
Oh.
No, and then what's interesting, the centrist notion of Boehner being willing to play, at least to some degree or another.
But he still can't get his caucus under control.
The caucus, yeah.
Okay, listen to here's somebody who's in Boehner's caucus and a very powerful Republican in the House. His name is David Camp. He is the chair of the always powerful House Ways and Means Committee that deals with taxation. And here's what he now says. Obama is wasting time if he's talking about raising taxes at all. Okay. The people spoke. And here's the head of the Ways and Means Commission. Quote, "Time is running short, and frankly, we don't have time to waste on offers that are going nowhere. Raising taxes will not create jobs." Guys, see, he doesn't get it. That's what Romney kept telling the American people. The American people voted for the other guy. The American people, in numbers greater than voted for Obama, told pollsters on their way out that they think raising taxes on the rich is the right thing to do. And these Republicans are going to continue to do what they did before. Caller, go ahead.
Good morning, Lynn and Tom. It's Michael from Palm Springs.
Hello, Michael.
Hello.
And, well, you know what those slutty women who want free birth control and mothers who want infant formula for their children and
takers.
People who have help want to keep it with medicine have in common?
Takers. What? Takers.
They're takers, but there's another word for it, a political term for it.
What's that?
A constituent.
Yes!
And I think that the Republicans have no constituency.
No, they do, but it's just some millionaires.
Right.
Well, yeah. And they just don't realize that they are. That's the thing. You didn't build it yourself.
Right. Yeah.
They don't.
Because look at any community that has a Walmart. Walmart didn't build their sewage.
No.
Right, exactly.
The people in that town built the sewage and drainage systems for Walmart.
And all the trucks that have to go on all those highways to get all those goods to Walmart.
Exactly,
Walmart
tearing up big giant potholes, which I don't know. In Pittsburgh, do you have potholes?
Yes, we
Lots.
do. We do. We do.
But God built those.
So,
Those are acts of God, aren't they?
You know.
Yeah, but no, that's part of their disconnect.
Yeah. Well, you know what would be interesting? If
everybody uses government.
Right. Well, you know, it's really interesting if they continue to push this way to see, and who wants to think about the next election, or at least in 2 years, whether the constituents, to use your word, Michael, will say, you know, we sent you the message 2 years ago, now you're out. Although there's always some switchback with these mid-presidential year elections, but they don't want to
Well,
listen
we've got to carry the
momentum
into the midterms.
Yeah.
I just, it is, and what's interesting, I think Obama might let, you remember the great risk that Clinton took when Gingrich tried to take him on, and Clinton.
With the Contract for America?
No, Clinton let the GOP's recalcitrance there actually close the government down. Do you remember that?
Yes, indeed I do,
okay.
yes.
And he figured the people will understand who's behind this. The reason that they can't go to any federal agency and get help right now, the reason that the national parks are closed, the reason all of this stuff is happening. They know who it is. It's Gingrich and the Republicans. And you know what? The people did get it. The people got it. And I think Obama actually might let us go over the cliff so that he'll show the people this is what the Republicans are willing to do.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but at the time of the shutdown of the government under Gingrich, was Fox News a viable commodity back then? Was it, or was it just beginning and only got
earlier,
tens
it
of
was
thousands
definitely
households
earlier. I don't know.
millions?
It was. I think it was there.
But maybe not as a force.
Well, it hadn't maybe.
I know Rush Limbaugh had his TV show around that time.
Sure. And I don't know.
Because they've got a better mouthpiece now. That would be the only thing, because I seem to recall the Republicans had the stronghold at the beginning of the government shutdown, but then as the stone rolled and gathered moss, people were getting upset, and then the tide turned.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm thinking that if with Fox News and other right-wing media, would they not be able to carry that momentum that we have done something a little further?
Listen, if Fox News and Rush Limbaugh were so powerful, then explain how the last 6 presidential elections, the popular vote went to the Democrats. 5 of the 6, and 5 of the 6, believe it or not. That's 2 for Clinton, 1 for Bush, because he did not win the popular vote in the first time around. So, and both for Obama. 5 of 6 elections, say the American people have sided with the Democrats. So how powerful really is Fox News? What Fox News and what Limbaugh actually, they are powerful. And you know what their power has done? They've helped bring the Republicans to this sorry pass. Because they fed them this.
But now the one thing though that we
crap.
can't, I think it's a mistake to diminish some of the effect. You have to remember that when you have all that money, now we can say, yes, the Koch brothers spent $6 million and they didn't win the election, but these are people in boardrooms, these are people in places of influence in cities and communities. So, mayors of cities listen to people with that kind of wealth who are corporate bigwigs, and they may play lip service to the people. But I think, a lot of these people play big roles. They give to universities, they give to charities, they give to culture. And they build parks and lovely things like that. They have the ears of government people who they will answer their phone call before they answer
They who
yours.
must be appeased.
Well, in a certain sense. And so I think we can't discount that, no matter what the popular vote was.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All
well,
right.
thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you. I don't know. It's despairing.
It is despairing. Another
We have
caller.
another caller.
My goodness.
Boy, you guys are waiting patiently in line. Hi. Go ahead, please.
Hi.
Hi.
You know what drives me crazy about this whole thing is the way the issue is framed. That we talk about raising taxes when, in fact, all this is letting the Bush tax cut expire.
Right.
You're right.
And it's really a rollback to Clinton area times when everything was fine.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. And, I mean, when we think about it, tax rates, this is what I don't ever understand. Thank you, caller. Tax rates were so much higher in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, and our economy was growing. I don't know where Americans swallowed this idea.
But to be fair, it is a world dilemma now about the economy. It's not just the United States.
Well, that's true.
I mean, and that's what's a lot of implications. If it was just our problems, but, if Greece pulls out, if Spain pulls out, if Mrs. Merkel doesn't open her purse wider, then we all start to have to do heavy lifting and this, that, and the other. And the Chinese will buy us over, and we'll all be in sweatshops. But it's a world dilemma. The 50s was post-war a period of growth, particularly for America, and the rest of the time with little glitches in the 70s and 80s and 90s, but we've been doing well. And now when
Here's the big thing, too, that I think, and I said this once, but I'm going to come back to it. I think another reason the Republicans lost is because they were offering nothing but negativity.
Oh, yeah.
They were,
I think that's true.
And I think I thought, they worship Ronald Reagan. How did they not understand that the smartest thing he taught any politician was you offer
You're a good actor.
positive, sunny morning in America. You make people feel good about themselves. And what did Republicans do over and over again? They showed us ads where Americans were suffering. Everything is horrible. We're going down the tubes. We're not a great nation anymore. Oh, my God. Yeah. You know what? Americans don't want to hear it.
What was that phrase? Nattering nabobs of negativity.
Negativism.
What was his name?
That was Spiro Agnew.
Spiro Agnew, that's right.
Another great Republican. Okay, we're done. We're out of time. Thank you all for
go out and be positive, the good American way.
Yeah. And I don't know if you're religious, pray for these Republicans that God will somehow get that devil out of their head.
Smite them.
No, just free them from this insanity.
Maybe we should have, in Mellon Square, we should have public exorcisms.
Maybe. We should do a pray-in for them. They're so sick. Okay. Toodaloo.
Bye-bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.